those who don't know, we actually filmed this podcast at the 27 Project. And today we are sitting down with Nickeh. He's one of the owners here at the 27 Project. He was, I guess, a self-taught shooter. He filmed his own YouTube videos back in 2007. We'll make sure we put all the links down below so you can go back and see his journey. He transitioned to a content creator, working for some really big brands like Sony, Apple, Google, even Meta, and even to the likes of Russell Crowe. So we'll jump into the pod.
So we have Nick here today, or Nickeh, as he was formerly known in his scooter career life.
Oh, yeah.
He is one of the owners of the 27 Project, and there are a couple of other owners, some familiar names. We have Tai Tuivasa, Nick, and Bomber.
And Chris as well. Chris from FTA.
From FTA, yeah. So I think we know his cousin, Ozzy.
Ozzy, yep.
Yep. And I think they're involved with FTA together, if that might be correct. Yeah, so it's a very Western Sydney stack up.
Oh, yeah.
But we are here at Nick's studio doing a podcast with him, which is very cool. And so Nick is a content creator, but that covers quite a bit of different types of content creation, everything from websites to graphic design to videography to social media to even movies, documentaries.
Yep.
And so he is a wealth of experience, and we've been able to touch base with him quite often. And he's actually helped us just quite recently in our own social media content creation business as well, which has been awesome. So could you give us a bit of an indication or a bit of a backstory on how you started getting into content creation?
Yeah. So when I was 12 years old, it was the days of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Everybody had that game. And I kind of got into skateboarding off the back of that. And my grandparents would go on holidays and they had this little, handy cam thing. And I would always take it off them when we were on holidays and film everything. So it was kind of like that age that I kind of started showing interest in both skateboarding and cameras in general. So that Christmas, my grandparents and my mum chipped in and got me a little camera. And this was before social media was really a thing. So I'd go to school and tell my friends, I learned a new trick yesterday. I could kickflip or something. And they'd be like, no, you didn't. So I'd go home and I'd put my camera on the ground, film it, and take it back to school, show them that I could do it. And then before you knew it, I had a full memory card of all these tricks and didn't know what to do with it. So I made a little YouTube video, which you can actually still see today. And it's pretty funny, actually. But
we'll definitely put that link in there.
I'll get it for you. But yeah, and then it was one thing led to another. My friends saw that I made a video and they're like, oh, can you make me one of those? And then, I don't know, it just started this insane obsession of constantly, going straight to the skate park from school, filming, going home, editing, researching on YouTube how to use Windows Movie Maker. And then it just snowballed.
That's awesome. And so you actually racked up quite a YouTube following. How many followers would you have had back then?
At the peak, it was, I think it's still there now, but I just haven't been active. It was 70,000 subs and maybe 20 million views, but that was quite substantial for 2009, 2010. Yeah. And then if you added all the videos that I put on other people's channels, we've probably got maybe 100 million views.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Especially for that time. So we've got some friends that they've just actually gone over to the States, and what they're doing is they're making sort of little mini docu-series of different famous YouTubers' lives. And so they're connecting with some really cool people over there. I think maybe Ryan Trahan is probably the most notable name maybe that they've done one for, and they're doing some cool stuff. And so we started looking into the YouTube stats as to what is actually a good subscription follower base. And I think it was less than 1% of people. It might have been 0.2%. But less than 1% of people had actually had over 100,000 subscribers. And so that just puts it into perspective. That's now, and all the way back then you had 70,000 subscribers and 100 million views. So you were actually at the point where if people drove past you, they could recognize you. And I think we were talking to Tuesday, because I'm not sure that you'd tell us this, but people were yelling out the window, "It's Nick!"
Yeah. It got to a point where to be honest, I'm glad it didn't go any further than what it did, because I've always been a very kind of introverted person. And it started to get a bit weird for me. I remember the one time in particular, I was at Penrith Plaza enjoying some KFC, and this photo hits my Instagram of me mid-zinger burger bite. Is this you? And I'm like, yeah, that's me, bro. It just, I don't know, bro. And it was very overwhelming. In a positive way though, like we would go to London, and obviously these kids wouldn't show up for me; they show up for our crew. But like we'd be at a skate park in London, there'd be like 500 kids waiting for us.
That's insane.
And like it was one thing, like obviously they were there for like Ryan Williams and all these big names, but then there'd always be kids that'd come up to me and be like, "Man, I started filming because of your videos," and it was really cool. Like when I first set out to do this, I never expected that
to happen.
Yeah.
Wow. And so that was obviously your first, I guess, introduction into making content. And I think a lot of people do start with like creating content and thinking, well, they're going to be creating content for themselves.
Yep.
And you were kind of describing there that you didn't necessarily like the fame, which is a funny word to use, but the fame that sort of came with it. Was that why you transitioned to make content for other people, or was there some other reasoning?
No, I was already making content for other people. Like off the bat, I was like never the best skateboarder or anything. And you can only go so far filming yourself doing that stuff. And I think there was just something in the water in Western Sydney because there were just so many talented athletes. Like I had Lance Russell at my school, who's a world famous freestyle motocross rider, and I had Cody Donovan in Penrith, he was like I wouldn't say like the Tony Hawk of scootering. I'd say that would be more like Ryan Williams. He was more like the Dogtown Boys, like the OG that kind of sparked everything. He kind of like set the bar of what scootering was, and then all these other kids come and took it to another level.
Wow.
So I had like all these like really talented people around me. It was like, why would I focus on myself? Like I'm just going to document my extremely talented friends. And then the other stuff just came with it. I wouldn't say fame or anything like that. It was just like a little bit of a buzz, but it was cool. Like it gave me some really cool opportunities, and this was like early days of social media, so I was getting like brand deals and stuff back then, which I thought was amazing. But now in hindsight, I'm like, man, these guys got their money's worth, that's for sure.
Yeah. But I guess when you're a young kid and someone offers you a brand deal, you're just like, oh, well, you take it, right? Like
when you're 18 and someone offers you $1,000, that's like $1 million. So you're like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Especially like for doing something that I would have done for free anyway.
Yeah, no, you're doing something you love.
Yeah.
And so you said that your grandparents and your mum had chipped in to get you a camera for Christmas.
Yep.
And we were here the other day when your grandpa actually came to the studio.
Yeah, he's a legend.
So like that must be amazing for him to see, like, this was a Christmas like present that we had sort of chipped in and we gave to Nick for a present. And now you've got like a whole studio and your whole life is content creation. Like for him, that must be like such an amazing thing to like, I guess, experience.
I think so. And he's very proud. He always wanted a son, and he had 4 daughters, and now he's got 4 grandsons. So like we're kind of like his pride and joy, us 4 boys. But he's always been so supportive of anything we've done. Like he's the first to, if I'm stuck with something at the studio, I'll put it in our family chat. Trying to get my cousins to come help me. But no, I'll be there. I'll come help you. He was always building me skate ramps as a kid. Same for the other boys, and even now our youngest cousin Reese, I think he's 16 or 15, turning 16. He's always the first to take him to his sports games and all that. Like he's the
awesome.
best. He's a legend.
That's mad. It just must be so cool to see that you sort of invested in that way and like something has really come off the back of it, especially because it's something you love. But yeah, I don't know. For him to come see the studio, that's mad.
I think this is, sorry for name dropping, but this is like my favorite story about him. Growing up, have you ever seen the film Blazing Saddles?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so it's like an OG Mel Brooks film. Like
Yep.
it's like, I don't even know when it was made, like before I was born, I think. But it's just this old country comedy film. And it's just like a bunch of fart jokes and stuff. To be honest, I can't even remember the movie that well. But I remember my grandfather always talking about it growing up. And then one time, this is like fast forward years and years later, I was at the BBC in the UK and I saw Mel Brooks in the hallway. And I was like, this is so cool. Like this is like my grandpa's going to be so stoked. And I sent him a picture and he was like, I think that was one of the points where he was like, holy crap.
Yeah,
like,
wow.
wow.
How is this happening? Yeah.
How is this happening? But it must be surreal for him. But he's the legend. He's so good.
Yeah, wow. And so I know you're not like the biggest fan of name dropping, so we'll do it for you. So you've moved from doing some content creation in a hobby or a passion that you sort of loved.
Yep.
And then obviously you've gotten older since then, as we all do, but you've gotten older and you've moved into the content creation for other businesses. Probably the most notable name is that you've actually done some personal work now for Russell Crowe, which is pretty amazing. But before we get there, because it's obviously like quite an amazing thing, and I'm sure there's many stories that will come with that, could you just fill in that chunk of time between I guess, stopping with the skateboard and getting into the content creation. How do you get into content creation for businesses? Because like there's a bit of a jump for doing something for yourself and then allowing a business to be able to monetize or get value from content creation in a very different way. So could you describe how you made that jump?
Yeah. So obviously, when we started seeing, well, I'd say when we started recognizing success with our videos, and when I say we, I mean myself and my friends that would make these videos together. The action sports industry is only so big, especially in Australia. So I was trying to always think of, people we could partner with outside the box. So I started reaching out to companies like Arnott's. I did a collaboration with Arnott's. We did KFC. We did Sony and Panasonic, like all these big companies, because we, and again, in hindsight, we were doing these brand deals for like $500,000.
Wow.
And it just like the return that these big corporations would get off that. I know that Arnott's one, I think it got like 6 million views. And it's still like a video that people would bring up today just because of like the boys that I used in it are just so funny.
Yeah.
But I was just constantly thinking like, we can only get so far in this market. How can we branch out and start to bring in a little bit more money? So I was doing these jobs here and there, and then
so sorry, but how do these people find you though? How do you get into the room with someone from Arnott's to say, yeah, we want these guys to do like a social media video for us? Because I know back in the day, like even the thought of doing something on social media was just like, oh, like, you know, we're companies, we don't really need to be there. Obviously that's changed massively now. So I mean, it would have been early on, I guess, for them.
I was like, yeah, it was I was just like emailing these companies.
You just straight emailing them.
I would I always had a bit of a knack for writing emails, but I would like be on LinkedIn and I'd be looking who's the marketing manager for Arnott's, and I would find them, and then I would do some research, get their email address, and I'd just cold email. And let's say I emailed 100 companies, 5 of them will come back and be like, man, you're getting like hundreds of thousands of views and you can do this and that. Yeah, sweet. Let's have a chat.
Wow. And so you need the volume, and you're going to have plenty of no's, and mostly using the LinkedIn platform for this, or actually just getting their email off LinkedIn and then.
Yeah, however I could. I would go on LinkedIn. If I couldn't find their email address, I'd find their Instagram account, and then I would just DM them, or and back in this day, as I was saying, like this is before YouTubing was cool. Like a lot of people were like, oh, you do YouTube, okay. But so this is before a lot of people were doing it. And if I could go to a company and be like, so let's say this is 2012, 13, right? And I could go to a company and be like, all right, I got 60,000 followers on Instagram. I got 60,000 on YouTube. My Facebook page was big back in the day as well. I'm getting these views, and I can make a video with your product with a bunch of guys doing backflips and all this cool stuff. And a lot of it was just tech things, or spec things, I should say, spec commercials. So I'd go to companies and be like, just give us the product and I'll do a video for free.
Right.
And then that would lead to other things. And then I was lucky I had people in my life like the guys from Monster Skate Park who like put me in front of companies like Bose, and that opened a lot of doors.
Wow.
But yeah, we were just trying to think outside the box. I'd cold email a bunch of people. I'd get myself in these. It was kind of overwhelming. I remember being in like the head, at the table with all the heads of Bose Australia. They're all these kind of like.
At what age?
Like 18.
Wow.
17 maybe. And they were like 50, 60 years old.
What's this kid doing?
And they're like, what are you doing here? And it was, you know what? It was the day. So we could put a date on it. It was the day that Dr. Dre sold to Apple. Because I remember everyone at Bose being like, shit.
Like, something's
happening with Beats by Dre.
What a day.
And then they're trying to be cool. So I think that kind of helped me, because they're like, all right, so Beats by Dre is really cool. How do we be cool? We're like a boring. I remember them saying like, our market is like business guys.
Yeah.
We want to be cool. How do we be cool? So it was just like, we ended up doing a snowboarding film in Italy and then a skateboarding film in LA.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I'm just trying to think. You're 18 years old and you're in a boardroom. Like, did you have like someone accompanying you, or I guess someone to make sure that you're not getting ripped off, or because you're the one putting yourself out there, you were kind of just it?
No, when you're that age, you're still living at home. You kind of don't think about financial gain. It's just like experience. You just want experience.
Mm.
Like I wanted the travel. I wanted the fact that I could put Bose on my resume and then go to a bigger company and be like, I just did this. What can we do together?
Yeah.
And I was just collecting clientele that I could brag about.
Creating a portfolio.
Yeah, creating a portfolio, and then I could go to these other companies and be like, I've done Bose, I've done this, I've done that, and then just go from there. So I was always hunting the bigger ones like Red Bull and Bose and that kind of stuff, just because I thought that, you know, like what we talk about, I have receipts now. I can go to other people and be like, I've done all this, like let's do some stuff together.
Yeah, and it makes a massive difference because, like, if you can name drop to someone or even just show credibility of work, they don't feel like they're taking a risk anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's super cool. So you did some from Arnott's, Bose.
Who else did I do back in the day? We did KFC at one point. We did I'm really stretching back here. Panasonic, Sony.
So these are some of the biggest companies, like essentially in Australia.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. And so now you're doing some bigger clients as well.
Yeah. So I was doing YouTube still. I was doing these brand deals on my YouTube channel. I was doing videos for other people, and then I also got into teaching. I was really fascinated by like showing other kids how to do this, and I've always been into that, and it's something that I want to really do moving forward. More of. So I was like doing these camps. So Monster Skate Park would have these camps, a BMX, a scooter, and a skate one. And they'd have like a pro skateboarder, pro BMX rider, pro scooter rider. And then kids would fly in from all over the country and spend a week with them. Wow. And it started off, I was just filming the camps for them. And then when I kind of got my own name, I was like, we should do a media camp. And they were all for it. So we did a media camp. And then one of the kids that I helped out one day, turns out that his dad is one of Russell Crowe's best friends.
Wow.
So that made a connection there. And I remember his dad from the news. His name's Chris Murphy. He's a criminal lawyer. And I just remember growing up with my grandparents watching the news. He has a very distinct, like deep Australian voice. And one thing led to another. His wife got my number or something. And he called me one day and he's like, I want you to email Russell's assistant. Like, you need to meet up. And I was like, nothing's going to happen here. Yeah. So I wrote an email. One thing led to another. I had a meeting at his production company. I did meet Russell, met his producers, and they were like keen on me. And then I went home, told my family like, oh yeah, Russell Crowe's production company wants to give me a job. And I like gave up the YouTube stuff like that. Yeah. I was like that like I've reached my, and my parents my family were always really supportive, but they were always like, in the back of my head, like, what are you going to do when you're 30? You don't want to be like the weird old dude hanging out at the skate park still. Makes sense. And like they wouldn't have cared if I did do that, but they were just trying to like see where am I going to go from this. So this was like perfect, right? Come home, tell them, they're like, Russell Crowe. I'm like, yeah. And I don't hear anything for 6 months. Wow. Like they just fall off the face of the earth, this production company. So I've gone back to teaching and shooting. Didn't really faze me that much. So when you say teaching, this is just using your own platforms and saying, hey, come, I'll teach you for a fee. Yeah. Yeah, wow. So that's like pretty like an organic way. And it was like I wasn't making bank. Like it was a low fee, but I was enjoying it. Yeah. And then one day I get a call from his production company 6 months later and they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We've been in Turkey filming The Water Diviner. Do you want to come in next week? Ended up going to a football game. Russell watched my show reel and he paused it after like 20 seconds. And I'm like, oh no, he hates it. And he was like, no, this is really good, man. Looking forward to it. And then it was cool. It was just like, I didn't know. I had no expectations. I think that's one thing that I like, that has helped me so much. I've never really had expectations for things because I thought I peaked when I was 16 in America filming videos. But it's just like, it's been crazy since then. Wow, that's awesome. And so just thinking back, you were saying that you've done some of the education side of things and then you were starting to move into working with some bigger clients and you had cold emailed and now you'd been put in touch just by doing business with Russell Crowe's production team. But I think like if you're a younger person, like how, like without putting you on the spot, how do you write an email saying, I'd like to do work for you? Is it really straightforward? Is it like, hi, to whom it may concern? We do videos, like I've got heaps of views, like because you said you were like good at crafting up emails. Yeah. How would you approach a bigger client if other people wanted to do that? What would you like? Is there a little secret sauce that you put in somewhere? Yeah, definitely. First of all, don't take up too much of their time. Don't write an essay. because these people are busy.
Mm.
You kind of want to get to the point straight away. So I'd introduce myself. Hi, my name's Nickeh and I'm a filmmaker from Sydney, Australia. I'm reaching out today with an expression of interest to work with your company.
Mm.
Here's a bunch of stuff that I've done before. This is what I think I could do for you. If this interests you, I'd love to tee up a time for a call or a meeting or anything like that.
Wow.
I keep it short and sweet. I'd put in receipts or everything. So I'd be like, I got this many followers, I got this many views. Here's 3 of my most viewed videos, 2.5 million, 3.5 million, whatever it is. I also have the other thing I had was a vast network of different athletes.
Mm.
So like as I said, I don't know what it was, but the group of guys I hung around are like Ryan Williams. You look him up now; he's an absolute superstar.
Wow.
And I had him we were like best mates growing up. So it's like,
You had access to other people.
yeah, I had access to these incredibly talented people.
Mm.
But you don't need, I'm not saying you need that. If you just structure an email well enough and don't go, I wasn't going for, Apple off the bat. I kind of worked my way up. I started local, got a bit bigger and bigger every time. And then once I had some decent receipts, I started going for the
bigger clients.
bigger clients.
And I know that you said that you don't need a network, but I think you do need receipts.
Oh, 100% you need receipts.
Because if you're talking to business people, they want some numbers.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's probably helped us a fair bit. It's just the demand for work the only organic demand that we've had has always been off the back of we've done something and someone else wants that. And I think how you get that if you don't have receipts yet is go do work for free, just like you said.
Do some spec commercials. Go and buy a pair of Nike shoes from Foot Locker or Shoe Grab, I should say.
Yes.
And go and film a commercial on them. Get your mate to come out, go film an ad, and then send that ad to someone like Shoe Grab and be like, "Hey man, I just made this spec commercial. I'd love to work with you."
Exactly. Yeah.
You got to put in it's not just gonna turn up in your lap. And that's one thing I've found. I'm trying to expand my team at the moment, and I think with social media and stuff, it's kind of warped people's expectations of how things happen.
So much.
The first 5-6 years I was doing this, I didn't earn $1, and then for the next few years after that, it was a couple dollars. And then these, they think they come in with a camera and they can charge $2, $3, $4 grand for a video. It's where are your receipts, bro?
Yeah. It's an amazing thing to be ambitious. We want people to be ambitious, but we don't want you to be delusional.
Yeah.
It's you really do need some proof of work, some, as you call them, receipts to say this is what we can do. And I think that's one of the biggest things in the freelance space. Go do some work for free, prove your worth, and you'll have demand. It's we've been watching a few people recently set up businesses, and it's almost like if you take your business advice just from people that are on YouTube, you're taking the smallest fraction of hyper successful people, and often they're not going to be able to resonate with where you're at, and they might not be even giving advice for where you're at. It's so much of the time it's 10 years of work and doing huge amounts of unpaid work, and then you develop a name, you develop a network, you have receipts, and then the demand comes. It's a big part of business, and I think people are expecting success to come so much sooner than it likely is, and then they end up stopping. And some of these are talented guys; they've just got the wrong time frame of expectation as to when it's going to work.
And I think it's the beautiful thing about content creation and this kind of modern industry of what we're all working in here. You don't need to go to university. You don't need to do any of that stuff. If you can prove that you can do the work, then someone's going to hire you. I have not once been asked what my ATAR was, what qualifications I have, because they see the work and they go, all right, sweet, yeah, cool, you're hired. So you got to that's a trade-off. You don't have to go and study for 3 years. Instead, go and work for 3 years. Go and get your skills up 100%. And build that portfolio and make mistakes with small clients that you can easily fix before you go and try and get that Sony or Panasonic job or whatever.
Exactly. Are you going to say something, T?
Yeah, so obviously you're very creative, but when you started making your videos for YouTube and your mates, are you someone that can look at something and recreate it, or are you just someone that I guess just tried a lot of things with content creation and then you kind of developed your own style? You're landing all these clients, obviously you're good. How did you, I guess, learn that skill? Do you have an eye?
I think you know what, and this is something that I've only kind of realized I'm able to do in the last, say, 2-3 years. I honestly think in the last 3 years, I've gotten 1,000 times better, especially compared to the first 12 years that I was doing this. And I always wanted to be able to do that. I always wanted to be able to look at a shot and go, how did they do that? I want to be able to do it. And it's something that I don't know how, but in like the last few years, I realized I can do that. It might not be the same way they did it. It might be what we call a shitty rig way of doing it. Like I remember seeing a Nike ad and the shoe was floating. I was like, I want to be able to do that. And I'm sure it was probably a CGI shot, but Bomber and I were like, oh, let's go Bunnings and get some fishing line and we'll paint it out in the shot. And now it's like that has been such a big thing in my workflow now, is making things float and making things, even like the recent stuff with Shoe Grab where he's throwing the boxes and that kind of thing. I'll try and figure out like an easier way to do it. And it might not be the right way or like the best way to do it, but I'll try and figure out the best way to make it work. You know, it might be watching a film and going, okay, it's lit from this way. They've done a camera angle from this way to make it work. And I can actually break it down and reverse engineer it. And then I put my own kind of twist on it. Yeah. But for the first 12 years of my career, I honestly was just winging it. Yeah. Like I was like, I don't know how this is working. And it wasn't until I went back, let's say maybe like 2016, I'd already been working for Russell for about a year. I went back and did an online, not so much a course, but just I went online and just retaught myself everything, watched all different videos, read a bunch of articles, figured out how cameras actually work, why you have, you know, a native ISO on a camera, why it's not always best to shoot at a low aperture of like 1.2 and get the cool blurry effect, like why certain things are done certain ways. And then because I was just winging it. I had a camcorder and I was just making videos with my friends and having a good time. I would have kept doing it even if I had 200 subscribers, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was just a big bonus for me that everyone else loved it.
I think we often talk about that. When you're a part of an emerging market, there is so much more freedom in what people will accept as like, you know, quality work. Yeah. But when we start to get into a period of time where social media marketing is very much an established thing now, quite often you'll have expectations placed on you as to how something should look. And I think what a lot of business owners don't understand is there's a small part of marketing that needs to be like exploration, like innovative, creative things that aren't currently being done. And sometimes that's where like you get disproportionate results. It's like if you do the same things as what everyone else is doing, you may get slightly better results if it's a slightly better quality, but you won't get that disproportionate like difference. But the thing is, some of those like exploration type content pieces, they're not going to give you huge amounts of views every single time. But the chance that it does can completely change the trajectory of your business if something takes off well, because you're one of the, like a pioneer, or you're someone that's done something that someone else hasn't done. And that's the thing that's making you stand out, which is why we do marketing. Yeah. Like the whole thing about marketing is to make you stand out from the others. But business owners can often be so risk adverse or so set in their thinking as to this is how it should look. When you go do something that's, you know, at the heart of creative marketing and they go, oh, but it didn't get the numbers that the other one did, so maybe we should go away from this. I think there has to be a level of trust in your content creators if you want that sort of disproportionate chance of getting, you know, millions of views.
100%. And that's something I try and do. Let's take Shoe Grab, for example. I started doing work with them about a year ago now. And it was always like, I watched their previous content, a lot of unboxing and shoe on foot and that kind of stuff, which I thought was cool. But I was like, how can I do my own thing here? So Jay from Shoe Grab, he's quite creative himself. When I pitched some ideas to him and he's like, yeah, that's great. I think the first one we did that really kicked off was Bomber's little brother, Nickeh. I made a shoebox fall from the sky and it kind of broke the ground, and then he unboxed the shoe. And it was like, that kind of like set a little, you know, spark in my relationship with Jay, where now we just sending each other shots from films back and forth, whatever it is, trying to come up with new ideas and new things that we can do. And at the start, he was very like, I want to see every clip. I want you to pitch ideas to me. And now he kind of like just lets me do my thing because we've built that trust with each other now. But it's cool. I like getting that like reaction from him where I'll try something new and send him the clip and he'll just write back like, oh my God, or something like that. Yeah. But it's true. Like, you need to be able to stand out from your competitors. And if everyone else is doing an unboxing of a shoe, for example, than doing a simple thing like making the box fall from the sky. Maybe the other person gets double the views where they're unboxing, but they're not going to remember that because all their videos are unboxing videos. They'll remember the video about the shoe falling from the sky and breaking the ground.
100%.
Or even like we even have moved away from just focusing on the shoe. Like I'm not sure if you saw the video the other week of Nickeh actually jumping over the shoe grab building and then landing on the ground in front of it. Like every time, I've met someone at shoe grab, they're like, "Oh, you're the guy that does the content where the guy jumps over the building or the shoe box." And it's like, yeah, like I couldn't
Nothing
imagine.
to do with shoes.
Yeah, respectfully, I couldn't imagine the same thing happening at the other shoe stores where they're like, "Oh, you're the guy that made the box open and then the shoe came out." Like it's like.
It's so true, yeah. Like the impact and engagement, it doesn't always have the same viewership, but it can be, again, like disproportionately effective. And not to call anyone out here, because like amazing that these guys got these results, but we were, like literally this morning we were watching a media company, I think, we're just kind of scrolling, and this media company had got like 6 million views for a client, and there was a croissant that was featured. And it was kind of like a loop video, but you don't always realize it's a loop when you first watch it, right?
Yep.
And so everyone ends up watching it 3 or 4 times, and that shows high amounts of engagement to the algorithm, and we're working with an interest-based algorithm, so it's obviously taken off. And it's amazing you've got that many views, like because it gives you a chance at seeing all the other content that page might have, assuming they actually click through to the page. But for the actual video itself, it's not going to be impactful because it's literally like a croissant being put on a plate.
Yep.
Like it's not being ripped apart and you're seeing the chocolate in it, or it's, getting perfectly toasted, or it's having, being placed on a table amongst a whole bunch of people so you can see how many people that cafe caters for, or anything like that. It's literally just a low engagement, low impact video that has a whole bunch of views. And I think you'd take that every day of the week. You take the views, but like I think we also need to like differentiate impact and engagement in content pieces, because if we just work off the numbers, we can be led to be doing things that like don't help at all.
It's like when I find it kind of funny when businesses, and fair enough, you can share memes and whatever, but when they post memes as reels and they'll get like, 300,000 views on a meme reel, and then you create a piece of content for them about their business, it gets 50K. You go, "Oh yeah, but this one got 300,000. So I'm like, yeah, but the most notable one I've seen everywhere, and I'm guilty of some of my friends posting this video, but again, not to judge, is that one of the guy on the edge and he's like on his seat and he's like, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
And they push him up. I think every company has shared that reel, and it always does well. It's a funny piece of content, but how does that help?
How does that translate?
How does that
to
help you
business?
sell your product?
Exactly.
Like, sure enough, it might bring, as you said, if people actually click on there, but let's say they're selling cars and they see that video and they go, "Oh, that's funny, I'm going to click on this profile." Then someone's trying to sell you a car. You're going to be like, "Oh, I don't want this."
I think I was being nice as to what the views actually do, but like you're probably not going through to the cafe's page just because a croissant was put on a plate.
Unless it looked like an absolutely mouth-watering croissant that you were like, "I need that in my life."
And so there's always the possibility, and it's good to get that many views, but the one thing you don't want to do as a content creator is present this to the person that you're working for as an amazing thing. You really do want to be honest about it, because otherwise you're going to get held to those expectations that you've now created for them. And that's something we've been super, diligent in doing, saying, hey, this is the reasons as to why we think this has gone well. Great that it's gone well, but let's not just supply high viewership to quality content that's actually going to result in some form of business later.
Yep. And it's funny, like I know how much it is about strategy and content and everything, but there is a small bit of luck there too.
100%.
Like I could create the best piece of content I've ever made in my life and post it
Wrong time.
At the wrong time, or it could just be like I could have swapped some shots around at the start. Like how like you got the hook, right?
Yes.
So you got the first 1 to 2 to 3 seconds to really grab their attention. If I put a shot at the end that should have been at the start, it can make such a big difference. So there's so many like variables to think about, but then at the end of the day, it's all what the algorithm feels like doing at that point in time as well.
100%,
so you literally cannot promise what views you're going to get. You can say, I think this will do well. Like from our calculations, every other time we've done this, it's done really well, but I can't promise you it's going to get 1 million views.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's where the actual content needs to be judged, because if it gets 500 views, no one in this room considers that to be a successful post. But But if 400 of those were your actual followers, super interested in what you had to offer, and then 200, which would be a disproportionate amount, come into your cafe and buy a coffee off the back of it, you'll probably notice like an actual increase in sales off the back of it, but it's an actual genuine customer experience that has resulted in some sort of financial transaction later on. It's like, that would be amazing. And it can happen off 500 views. That's why I think we need, like as content creators, like we need to get back to just, I mean, we obviously do it, but analyze the quality of the content, not just the views, because this new algorithm, it's taking things off that don't necessarily, I guess, deserve the level of viewership. But we're probably all happy that the algorithm now exists so that it's, you know, the content piece and the interest and engagement that's associated with it that has the best chance of moving it along. So yeah, it's if you're a young content creator out there, definitely don't get into the habit of having a video that goes wild with a bit of luck and then telling the person that you're working for that this was an amazing thing that we should try and re-replicate, because chances are you're not replicating it.
And trust me, it's always the ones that you least expect to do well that do well.
Yeah.
Like the most viewed video on my channel is of this kid, Hayden. He's this little scooter kid. And I met him at I think we either met at Monster or at a charity event in Penrith. And I remember his old man became like a good friend of mine. And he kind of said to me, he's like, oh, I know you film all the pros, but is there any chance you can film a little video for Hayden? I think he was 6 or 7. I was like, oh, yeah, why not? And I filmed it. I was going to just give it to them. And I'm like, oh, no, I'll put it on my channel. Most viewed video I ever put on my channel.
Yeah. There's
Like
something authentic about that though, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you can't.
You certainly weren't posting it with the expectation of it happening.
Yeah. And I think that's something important, is to expect nothing and accept everything with content creating. Sometimes it's going to work. If it doesn't, just wipe it off, go again. Like it's you can't be attached. And that's something that I still deal with this issue. I'm too attached to everything I put on the internet. So if you look at my Instagram page, it's a bunch of sneaker videos. You'd think, oh, all this guy does is film sneaker videos. That's wrong. But I'm too attached to some projects, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to put this one out, or I don't think this one will do well. But
sometimes the most talented people are the most cautious.
Ask the guys. I'm so protective of what goes out on even the 2/7 Instagram. But you know what? Like, if you're having fun and like, did you see the video of Bomber painting the psych the other day?
It was great, yeah.
So that's a funny story. We came in here, we were both swamped with work. We were so overwhelmed, and the psych was all dirty, and we both can't work if the studio's dirty. We can't work in a messy environment. It just doesn't work. So I was like, oh, we should paint the psych. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, let's have a bit of fun with it. And we didn't plan anything. We just pulled the camera out. We went through a 80s, I think it was 80s or 90s playlist on Spotify and found a song. We're like, yeah, this is the one. We just put it on. We painted the psych and tried some stuff. And now everyone that comes in the studio goes, man, that painting video the other day was so good. It's just like, we were just having fun. We were laughing while we were making it. We actually went to Bunnings to buy supplies. And the woman behind the counter is like, what are you boys laughing at? And we're like, oh, we're just having a good morning. She goes, keep laughing. Like, I wish more people were like that.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're having fun doing it, chances are people are going to have fun watching it.
It's so funny. And that translated into the actual video. You could see it. Yeah, that it's super cool. Like, I think like Mr. Beast often talks about this. There's definitely a formula for creating good videos.
Yeah.
But there's just no, I don't think there's a probable way of knowing which content piece for small followerships is going to be the thing that takes it.
100%.
But definitely some form of formula. And I think that area of luck that you talked about is, super important as well.
Once you figure out, like I was talking to my friend Zoe the other day, she's a TikToker from around here, and she's got a pretty big following, like 80 or 90K or something on TikTok, but her engagement's really high. I said to her the other day, I'm like, what was it that, because respectfully, she's just a normal girl. She doesn't like have a crazy, she's not like a gymnast or anything with some crazy talent. And I think that's why her audience love her. She's really authentic and just a normal person. But she posted like these day in the life TikToks when she was going through COVID, and one of them just popped off, and she's just been riding that train now. She puts out, like, once you figure out what works, good, keep doing it. But just don't be attached that every time it's going to do the same thing. Yeah. Like what you guys do with some of your clients, like it works for you. You figured out what works. Not everyone hits 1 million views, but every day you guys are posting on your story, another one. I'm like, this is insane. Like, so it's obviously like you figured out a formula, but also doesn't guarantee it's going to work every single time.
And I think probably the thing that we're most happy with is the content pieces that have had high viewership, they actually have some sort of benefit to the business.
100%.
Because like, I think we could definitely like engineer something to go viral, and we wouldn't be leading into things that would be happy posting. Okay, so back into the footy box with Russell. You're showing him a video.
Yep.
What is this video?
It's still on my channel. It's just my 2015 show reel.
Okay.
So it was just a bunch of action sports athletes, bit of B-roll put together. But what they wanted me for was the Rabbitohs eventually. Originally. So because I have an action sports background, I'm used to only having one chance to get certain shots. And I think that's what they kind of, vibe towards. So first job I did for them was a Rabbitohs commercial. It was the 2016 members video.
Awesome.
And it was cool. That was another boardroom experience for me. I was a bit older now. I'm like, how old was I in 2015? I would have been 21, 2022 at the end of the year. And in the Rabbitohs, building at the meeting, and we're throwing ideas around for a membership video. And I remember I was so nervous to pitch my little idea, but I was like, what if I got like some of my action sports friends to put on Rabbitohs jerseys and show all these different people in different, because there's Rabbitohs fans everywhere, not just in South Sydney. So I was like, we can get people over here, people over there. This person can be on a motorbike. I'll get a gymnast. I'll get a skateboarder. And I put this like thing together. And I honestly thought they were going to be like, no, it's crap. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, shit, okay. I gotta make some things happen now. So I was able to call up my friends. I got Lance Russell, the motocross guy I was telling you about. Got Noah Naif, who's now one of the best skateboarders in the country. He was only like 13 at the time though. I got my friend Kayla doing some gymnast stuff, Chris on the BMX. And then I reached out to some of the Rabbitohs players and I was like, what's something that you like to do that's not football? So I got Adam Reynolds playing basketball and some of this kind of stuff. And we made this little membership video. And I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying it was the most successful campaign they had done up until that point in time. Wow. Which was cool. It was like my first job. I was so nervous to put this out. And then Ross, he was so stoked. He still brings it up. We were at a dinner last year and he's like, oh, bring up the action sports video again. And I look at it now. I'm like, this is a piece of shit. But he's just so pumped on it. So that's cool. Awesome. It's cool.
Nailed it. And so that was originally what he was looking at.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 years I was there, it was just Rabbitohs work. And that was membership videos, player profiles. So when you're at a game and they score a try, then it comes up on the screen, they do the arm cross and all this. And then, but the cool thing is Russell being such a creative person, he always wanted to take those to the next level. I was lucky. My coworker, who I'm still really good friends with, Joe, is so talented at visual effects. So we'd always get these wild requests from Russell at the start of the year, like, all right, this year the theme is. I remember this year the theme is alchemy, and we're like, what?
Google it.
So figuring out, turning things to gold.
Yep.
So if I could see if they might be online. I'm not too sure, but like you'd have George Burgess catch a football and hit it and then it turned to a solid gold football and then he does his arm cross. So it was always like, how do we make these player profiles cooler than everybody else's?
Yeah.
So there was like a lot of times where I was like learning things, visual effects. Then I was learning things about like editing, because every week they do a thing called a niggle. So what a niggle is, like, let's say the Rabbitohs were playing the Bulldogs, right? So you'd make a history, a 2-minute video, a mini doc.
They were good.
Of everything that the Bulldogs and Rabbitohs have done up until that game. Last game we were down 2 points and then we came back and won, and you're really trying to hype those Rabbitohs fans up. So he had me for 2 years just doing that kind of stuff. And I think it was also building the trust to make sure that, being around someone of that level of, fame and
they need reliability.
They need reliability, and they also need someone that's not going to, go and leak things and do this and do that, do wrong by them. So I think he kept me around for a while to make sure I was good like that. And then it was just from there, it was like, I remember the first trip we went on was Hong Kong. And then it was just, nothing that I ever imagined, man. I still pinch myself.
That's amazing. That's so cool, man. And so now you're doing like a fair bit of different types of work with him that's gone beyond the Rabbitohs. It's more like a personal type
so
role for him, right?
he as you could imagine, someone of with that many resources often comes up with ideas for projects he wants to do. He's always investing in things, and he's such a smart person. Like, and I'll put it out there, he's an absolute legend. Like, I have so much love for him. But yeah, he's obviously got a passion for music. He's been doing music since well before he was an actor. So he's currently got I wouldn't say it's a band. He has a band, the Gentlemen Barbers, but he's got a collective as well called the Indoor Garden Party, which is like a show that he travels with, and they release albums, but it's like a collective of his musician friends. So the first Indoor Garden Party trip we did was 2017 that I was a part of. And then we've just done an Indoor Garden Party tour, east coast of Australia, and then we did Italy, Malta, and Czech Republic. So this is like 2 months ago. So he still gets me involved. And you know what? When I ended up resigning last year, I had to call him because he was in England, and he said to me on the phone, he's like, "This isn't going to be any doors closed between you and I. If anything, more will open." And like, first of all, I didn't know what to expect. I never left a job before. It was my first real job, you know. I was there 8 years.
And that was working for a production company?
That was working for him.
For him directly?
Yeah.
Oh, so you actually resigned from working with Russell Crowe?
Yeah. So I was...
How do you do that? Like,
that's what I mean.
I assume that's up to him.
Yes. So that job that I got, when the football box and all that, that was for his production company,
right? Which
at the time maybe had like a dozen employees. When I left last year, he scaled it right down. There was only 3 of us. It was like that for quite some time. So it was working for his production company, but it was more or less working directly for him.
Right.
So it got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm feeling content. I feel like I need more in my life. And not that he wasn't delivering anything. It was just like I personally needed a change, needed some growth. I remember I was shitting myself, man.
Yeah, I don't imagine this is handing in a piece of paper. I don't think that cuts it.
No. And the worst part was I'd been thinking about leaving the whole entire lockdown COVID period. So let's say 2 years, right? And I finally got, you know, the balls
courage
to do it. Let's say the balls to do
yeah.
it one day, and I'm like, all right, this is the day I'm going to do it.
Yep.
So I texted him, and I never asked to call him. The whole 8 years I was there, he's not someone that you just randomly call up and be like, what's up? So I texted him and said, hey man, can I please call you? And I remember he responded, which hat do I have to put on? Because he was like, you know, trying to figure out what kind of call it was. And I was like, I'm not sure if you know already, because I told some of the other guys, but I just think it's my time to move on, but I want to talk to you about it. And then he responds, I've been waiting for this. Can you call me next Tuesday? And it's like Monday now. So I'm like, all right, so now I've got to wait 8 days with this feeling in my like gut, because he was doing Kraven the Hunter, which is a Marvel film coming out. And I'm like, man, like, so I just had this, I can't explain it. It just, you know how like, you feel like you're about to throw up?
When someone says, I have to tell you something.
Yeah, and then they don't respond straight away when you're like, what do you got to tell me? That feeling for 8 days. And then I call him, and I'm not really an emotional person at all, but this guy had me like bawling my eyes out, man. Like, he's like, yeah, because he was just like, look, Nickeh, I'm so proud of you. He goes, you don't understand how talented you are, blah, 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 blah. And then he was just like, this isn't any doors shut. If anything, with you and me, this will open more doors. And he was like, if you ever need me to call anyone or get you in anywhere or anything like that can benefit your career, I'll do it. Just let me know. And he goes, go and get a good accountant right now. As soon as you get off the phone to me, go and get a good accountant. And he's like, you have no idea how quickly this is going to blow up for you. And
wow.
Like that, bro, I wasn't like sobbing, but I was just like, tears were just coming out of my eyes. And I'm on the phone and I'm like, yep, okay, thanks, man. Thank you. I got to go. And he's like, yeah, I'll talk to you soon. And I got off and I was out the front of my friend's house. I was just like bawling my eyes out because I just wasn't expecting that. I was like, I don't know why, because he's never once been aggressive to me, but I was expecting him to be like, are you serious? Like,
after everything I've done.
After everything. Yeah. But it was the polar opposite. And then I ended up texting him straight away and I'm like, sorry, I hung up abruptly. Like, that just, caught me off guard. And he's like, no. He's like, all going to be good. But then I thought about it. I'm like, was he just saying that, or is he actually going to have my back, like, moving forward? I didn't hear from him for a while. He was really busy. And then one day I get a call and he's like, just check in and see how you're doing. I'm like, fuck, he's actually checking up, and he's a busy dude.
Yeah.
So, and then a couple months later, Joe calls me and he goes, "Oh, indoor garden party's happening, and you in?" He goes, "Russell wants you there," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be there then." And then it was just again like, it's almost like not that he never had respect for me, but he has like a whole new level now working with him. Like he really trusts me. We shot a music video together in March or April. And it was such a cool experience. I really liked those experiences. There was the three of us shooting and him. And then there was probably 50 extras and the band. And he's just kind of like, he's in the video, but he's also directing it. So he's like hovering over my shoulder and he's like, "Yeah, that's a really good shot, man. Yeah, great. When you have someone like that gassing you up, man, it's just like,
it feels pretty good.
Nothing matches that. Like it's,
Wow.
He's such a good dude.
He probably, I guess, learnt a lot from that hard conversation though, right? I think you do learn a lot about people when you have hard conversations.
And I think it's important just to like, I felt so much better after that. Like, and this is like what I say to like Tuesday even like I wouldn't have wanted to stay there anymore because I think I would have ended up like resenting the position and then for no reason maybe resenting the people around me.
Yeah. And so just to clarify, that was resenting the position amongst the production company.
Yeah.
You're now approaching him as a freelancer essentially.
Yeah. And like, I just like, you know, like when you're stuck in a job that you don't want to be in and you just find reasons to not like things. Like, oh, I hate how he puts his water bottle like that. Pisses me off. Like I never would have wanted to be like that. So I think it's important. That was a big life lesson for me just to like when you're feeling like that, like do it. And that's like what I say to Tuesday, who we've got working with us now. Like if there's ever a time where you like
open communication.
Yeah, just be open with me, like, and we'll get it sorted. If there's a time where you go, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go and do this." Like Russell's now set the expectation for me as a boss. I would only ever want to be like that. And like it's cool.
That's awesome.
I'm so grateful for and man, he's taught me. I think even without even knowing, he's given me so many lessons. And the people around him, Joe and Tony and Keith and all these people that work for him, they've all played their part in teaching me life lessons, which has been, that's like, you know, there's no price on that.
That's awesome. And so obviously that type of work is very different to like, I guess, social media content creation.
Oh, yeah.
So who taught you to be doing this? Was it something you learned in the production company or are you having to upskill yourself away from like work?
I think it's a mixture of all of it because the people I was around are proper filmmakers. Like Jules O'Loughlin, he's actually originally from Penrith. He's absolute legend. He shot like Hitman's Bodyguard with Samuel L. Jackson and
oh wow, right.
Like he's done some crazy things. There's a series I think it's called Black Flag. It's a pirate series. He shot that. And like I was just around like these incredible filmmakers, and I learned like, you know, things about film. But film is very different to creating social media ads and stuff. But because I had that previous experience as a kid doing all that stuff, I always kind of had like an attachment to it. And then when I left Russell, I had Shoe Grab lined up and that was it. I was like, what else am I going to do? And then I just kind of put those two things together, like the stuff I'd learned in the actual film industry and the social media stuff. And I just kind of created like my own way of doing things, I think. Even like, obviously with social media clients, they want a horizontal and a vertical deliverable, right? Well, the film guy inside me says, if I'm going to shoot vertical, I'm going to do it properly and rotate the camera. Whereas most people just crop in. But the film side of me goes, no, because the lens aberration is weird. The shot looks different. I get so much more real estate if I just shoot it vertically. So what I offer now is a package where I shoot both horizontal and vertical together. And that was something I did for Meta and Big W. So Meta approached me last year and they were like, "Oh, we really want to work with you. And our client's Big W. Would you be up to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Wow.
And that was a test for Meta as well, which is like crazy to think about. Meta were testing something with me, but we shot an ad for Big W, horizontal and vertical, and it was kind of like showing Big W and these corporate clients that the days where you need 30 people in a crew to film an ad aren't necessarily it. Like, sure, there are circumstances where you need that, but for a social media ad, you do it with 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
So that was like a cool experience to show them, and I feel like it's like a new thing that, not saying that I've invented this, but it's like very new. So I'm like one of the first to be doing it, is like bringing these two worlds together.
Yeah.
With the social media content, the actual.
You wouldn't often find filmmakers moving into social media.
No, they hate it,
would
man.
seem as a step down for
It
sure.
was funny. I did this chat for Sony for the Actor Awards last year. They had 4 directors from different parts of Australia at a table, and I was one of them. And I was the vertical guy.
You're the social media
It
guy.
was so funny, like
The ugly cousin.
you could tell like the old guys they were really nice people.
But they hated you.
And because I'm such a nerd burger, I'm like they're just so old school with everything. And then I'm a nerd burger talking about the new Sony, how it's got the auto calibrating IBIS and all this stuff, and they're just like, oh, we don't need all that information. And I'm like, yeah, but the auto calibrating IBIS is good because when I showed vertical, I get a naturally, I input that into Premiere. It's already natively vertical. And they're like,
vertical.
Yuck. But the Sony guys were loving it because I'm just full of I know how all this stuff works because I'm such a, I'm on the spectrum with this stuff. I'm just obsessed with, how things work and how cameras work and everything. But yeah, you could tell they were really nice dudes, but they were just ugh. Yeah. It's the next fad. You know what I mean? But
yes.
I think
social
it's
media fad.
But hey, it's working. So
exactly.
And it's been here for a while now. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
No. If anything, I think these platforms are only going to get bigger and offer more.
Yep.
So the 2.7 project, I think we might have skipped over that because that happened in between.
So it's kind of funny. The 2.7 project formed in lockdown.
Right.
When Bomber, myself, and Johnny Evans couldn't go anywhere. We were stuck in Penrith, and we were doing all these little content pieces together. And we had the chance to work with some pretty big brands in that time, like Huawei, Kalana, Sour Patch Kids, Fisherman's Friends, Google, all these big companies that would because everywhere was shut down, so they were just relying on content creators to make their ads.
That's amazing.
And we were doing these cool little ads. Like I'll give you some so you can make some clips. Like Bomber doing these amazing freestyle soccer tricks for Kalana, and it was like one of their best ads of the year kind of thing for socials. And Johnny Evans skating and all this kind of stuff. And then so we're like, we need a little name for our little crew, and we were all 27, and where we grew up is 2.7.
Yeah.
So we're like, 2.7 project. It was actually kind of funny. Bomber, he's gonna hate me for telling this story, but he's like, we were all at Johnny Evans' house one night, and he's like, I've got it, because we were thinking of his name for weeks. I've got it. Because there was 4 of us originally. Paul Wrights as well.
Oh yes, yeah.
Really talented
We're familiar
artist.
with him.
Yep. Absolute legend. So there was 4 of us, and he's like, I've got it. It's the 4, and we're from Penrith. The 4 Rifters.
Oh no!
He was so certain that was it, and we looked at him and we were like, "Nah, that's not it, bro." So we still joke about that.
When
to
I
this
next
day.
see him, what's up, Rifter?
Yeah, what's up, the 4 Rifters? You'll love that. But so we did that, and then I can't remember. I think it was I went on a name generator, and I typed in 2.7 and projects and all this kind of stuff, and it gave us the 2.7 project. So what about this? And they were like, yeah, sounds good. So it was more of a collective at the start. Then we got the studio, which was myself, Bomber, and Kyle, Setter by this stage.
Yep.
We did that, and that was in St. Mary's, and it was a little spot. Then Ty started coming through the spot to see what we were doing. He's like, this is awesome. We should do this properly. Then Ty obviously had his run overseas for a year, and we didn't really hear much from him. He came back, and he's like, no, let's do it. And I had just left my position with Russell. I'm like, this is the perfect timing. Amazing. So we got an empty warehouse, and then we've been winging it.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, I really love the space. It's awesome.
Oh man, every day I come here and I'm like pinching myself that it exists.
Yeah, that's cool. And so I guess as a little plug for 2.7, you guys have a content creation space. There is, I'm going to screw the word up, a cyclorama.
That's the one.
And it's a big one.
It is pretty big. It's big. I've been in much bigger ones, but it is more than big enough. It's big enough to fit. Cars. There was a Ford Raptor shooting on it the other day. So yeah, we built the cyc first. We got an open space concrete area with backdrops and props and different mirrors and lighting opportunities and that kind of stuff. Then we also have the podcast studio we're sitting in right now. But the idea of the place was never to make $1 million off. It was
you needed a space.
Yeah, we all needed a space. Let's build a space. We'll rent it out, and then we also want it to be a place where you can come generate ideas, bounce ideas off the wall. We're going to start hosting events here where we can all network with each other.
Yep.
So many talented people out here like yourselves, and I think everyone just needed a spot to call home and a place to feel safe to throw their ideas out and get some honest feedback. And we've even got, you know, boys from like the Panthers and stuff coming through now being like, oh man, like starting to think about life after footy, like what to do next. So we want to be a place where they can come and brainstorm, and we'll help them. They can focus on their footy right now. We'll build the brand for them, and then they have something to look forward to afterwards.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. T, did you want to chime in with any thoughts, feelings?
I'll come to your workshop.
Yeah, no, we'll be
One
there.
admission.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's one person in. We're good. We're good.
Awesome, man. Was there anything else that you wanted to update us on the 2-7? Anything coming soon? Anything for Nick in the future?
Oh man, I got some workshops, as you were saying. I got some workshops I'm working on now with Sony. So Sony have come on board with the studio, which has been amazing. They've supplied these cameras that we're now filming the podcast on.
Awesome.
So I'm going to start doing that. Self-taught shooter is going to be something I really want to focus on over the next 6 months as well.
Yep.
Which is my teaching platform. And then just building the team. We've got Tuesday now, she did such an amazing job holding it down while I was in Europe.
She is a little machine. We love Tuesday.
She is a weapon. I literally couldn't do this stuff without her now. And then, just expand that team a little bit more. And man, as I said, like my expectations of where my career was going to go, I reached at 16. So all this is just like a bonus.
Yeah, you definitely deserve the success, man.
I appreciate that, man.
Gives
Thank
first,
you.
which is awesome.